Hey, Shabbat Shalom, my friends. We are on the way to Israel to launch MGE in Tel Aviv and have an awesome volunteer trip in Israel. And on the way, Jill and I stopped off in Spain, specifically here in Girona. We are in the old Jewish quarter of Girona, where none other than the great and late Nachmanides.
May I present Rabbi Moses of Girona.
You take a look, this is the home. We believe that Nachmanides the Ramban lived in the 1200s here in Girona, Spain. And of course this was a very well-developed Jewish community at the time. Come with me inside the home as we enter the Ramban's home. His name was Moshe ben Nachman. The Ramban Nachmanides was a great Talmudist. He wrote a great commentary on the Talmud, an unbelievable Kabbalist. He wrote a phenomenal Pirush, an explanation of the Chumash of the Torah itself, where he referred a lot to Kabbalah. And if you take a look, if you follow with me, inside of his home here, this is a sign of dedication to the rabbi over here.
Not dedication, it's the name of a pub.
It's the name of a pub where he used to live. The main thing I wanted to share was why the Ramban never stayed in Spain. He left these parts because even though he had a relationship with the king at the time, the local priests and the church felt threatened by the Ramban. He successfully debated in the famous disputation and was extraordinarily charismatic, and the church really thought that the Ramban Nachmanides was going to be too charismatic and he was going to lead too many Jews back into Judaism and it would cause a threat to the church. And so he was basically kicked out. We know because you can go to Israel and see where the Ramban came to in Israel. And I just want to leave you with this thought, which is so relevant to what's happening now to our brothers and sisters in Israel. After Nachmanides left Spain, things grew worse for the Jews here in the Jewish quarter after the Black Plague, and they were accused of poisoning the wells and causing the Black Plague. All of this area here that I'm walking in, these beautiful shops and all that, this was all ghetto. This is where Jews had to live behind ghetto walls unless you converted to Christianity. If you converted to Christianity, then you didn't have to live here and you wouldn't be persecuted and all would quote-unquote be well. Just another reminder of how we have very little historical context of how important it is for us to have our own Jewish state so we can determine how we want to live and not be told what religion to practice if not. Hey, my friends, just wanted to show you right in back of me, you'll see the synagogue, and it is the synagogue, we believe, of the Rashba, who was one of the great rabbinic giants of the Rishonim period. Those are the rabbis who lived between the year 1000 and 1400s. He lived in the 1300s here, and he was a huge rabbi in Barcelona. This was his synagogue, and we are in the Jewish quarter in Barcelona, and we had quite a history in this country, but no longer. We're back in Israel. I just want to welcome Tina, who lives here in Barcelona. She's been our tour guide, and she is sharing such a fascinating history about the Jewish people that lived here in Barcelona. Just tell me a little what was happening in the 1300s. This is the years before the expulsion from Spain.
In 1348, we started to have problems with the Black Plague. Okay, so people blamed the Jews about spreading the disease. They were saying that there were less Jewish people dying, which is totally true because obviously there were less than Christian people. But of course, there was something that helped Jewish people not to die because of the Black Plague, and was hygienical reasons. Okay, mikvaot, netilat yadayim, all this stuff.
And who was making these claims that the Jews were somehow behind the Black Plague?
The church mainly. Okay, and especially the Dominicans. Okay, so in all the problems started in a place called Écija, which is in the south of Spain. It's close to Seville. These guys were going to the mass on Sundays and inflaming Christian people to go against the Jewish community. So these guys used to travel from spot to spot. Once they did the job in a place, they moved to Castilla. From Castilla, they went to Valencia. From Valencia, these movements burned and went to the Balearic Islands. And from the Balearic Islands, they arrived up to Barcelona in the 10th of August, 1391.
And what was the effect? I mean, people believe this, and what did people do as a result?
Attacking the Jewish communities of all over these places I was studying.
Okay, so this is the reason I wanted to interview you about this specifically, because we're going through this again, where religious leaders and other leaders are spreading lies about the Jewish people, and it's having a severe result when it comes to anti-Semitism. I mean, do you see that happening again today?
Well, in Spain, our government recognized Palestinians already. They recognize their state. But the truth is that in the streets, you do not feel anything against the Jewish community. It's totally true that Spanish people do not know what a Jew is. Okay, so we have in mind something that I do not know what it is. They think, I don't know what they think about Jewish people, but the fact is that they cannot recognize Jewish people on the streets. Okay, so Israelis, for example, are coming very much. They feel safe here, although our government recognized Palestine, and they have like 1,000 applications for the school, in the Jewish school in Barcelona. In Middle Ages, before the expulsion, we know for sure that here in Barcelona we had 5 different synagogues, and we know where 3 of them were. We do not know where the 2 other were. Okay, and we know that because of documents. Okay, so we are right now in front of one of these synagogues. Not necessarily.
By the way, all the bells, this is from the church.
No, it's not from the church, it's from the government of Catalonia, which is this building. Okay. These lands where the synagogue was built used to belong to a Jewish man called Moshe Natan. Moshe Natan was a poet. He used to write both in Hebrew and in Catalan, because here we spoke Catalan. This was not part of Spain by those days, okay? So this guy was attacked as well in the attacks held in 1391, and he wanted money to escape. So he sold this piece of land where the synagogue was to make money to be able to live. And this is why we know that here we had the synagogue, because he sold this piece of land where the synagogue was. And later on, when there were no Jewish people here living anymore, this became the government of Catalonia. So they dig down here, and we know that there are some remains of a synagogue.
And just one last question, the expulsion of Jews from Spain in 1492. Would you say that all of this anti-Semitism, which led to the church saying, either convert or leave?
Exactly.
I mean, that's just built and built and built, or?
Well, they wanted certainly to unify the country, both in terms of people, and this is why they also fought against the Arabs, but it was also a way of not paying their debts anymore, because the bankers were Jewish people, and of course even the crown owed a lot of money to the Jewish community. So it was a way to solve a problem by just doing one movement.
One movement to kick out the Jews. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, guys, it just hit me. I'm walking through the Jewish quarter here in Barcelona. It's very, very cool. But in 1492, when the expulsion took place and hundreds of thousands of Jews left Spain because the King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella signed this edict that if you didn't convert to Catholicism, you're out of here. Every single one of those Jews that was expelled, they could have stayed here. You realize that? They could have remained here if they had just converted to Catholicism and given up their Judaism. So we have an unbelievable history of hundreds of thousands of Jewish people that said, it means more to me to stay Jewish than to stay where I've been living comfortably for hundreds of years. And they had no idea where they were going to go. Our tour guide just told us some went to Italy, some went to France, but they had no idea how they were going to be received in those countries either. And I challenge you, ask yourself, if you've been living in a country for hundreds of years, like many Jews were living here in Spain for hundreds of years, their families, their grandparents, their great-grandparents, and then an edict for your expulsion is signed, but you could stay if you give up your Judaism. If not, you gotta go. There's no state of Israel to go to. All there is other European countries where who knows how you'll be received. What do? We're here today because a lot of Jews kept their Judaism and said, I'm not going to convert and I'm going to stay Jewish, and God hopefully will look out for me in some other country. Thank God we have the state of Israel today.